Welcome to this video. What we're going to do now is talk about composition and perspective. So when it comes to composition, that's what we'll start off with. Your composition needs to be appropriate, especially when you're creating simple videos. You need to understand where everything in your scene is lying. For example, if we had the lamp in the middle here, it would cover the subject, which could be you that you're filming. Or if you're filming somebody else, you want to space things around. One tip or trick that you can use for composition, at least to understand it, is to use grids. You may have access to this on your phone if you're using a specific app. In the workbook, we've provided you with the grid. So this is going to help you in terms of composition. So just by looking at the grid, and we'll put it on the screen right now, you can see where I lie in the frame. This is a lot easier to know while you're moving the camera. But a lot of cameras, you should be able to pop up your grid, and this will help you compose shots. So let's just start off with 2 or 3 main ones. The first one, which is the one that I'm currently using, is going to be your center framing. So in terms of the camera, we are framed in the center of the screen. My body is in the middle of the camera, essentially. So we have a lamp off to my right side, which is your left side, and then we also have a little light back there, which is just kind of supporting the composition. It's holding it strong. And as you can see, we're also forming a bit of a triangle with myself. So this is giving a nice strong center framing. What we're gonna do now is shift the composition to a little more lead room. So this is going to be from an interview I did in the past. And as you can see, the talent has lead room in the other direction. So if we were to point an arrow, you can see where they are facing. This is quite easy to do, but a very powerful method. So when you're filming somebody else talking, you could always shift the camera off to the side and allow for a little more lead room. This will give your audience a clear direction as to where your talent is speaking. And if it's for yourself, this is one way you could do it as well. Another quick element we're going to talk about in terms of composition, because it's very important, you want to make sure that you don't have too much headroom. If you have too much or too little headroom, I understand having too much headroom if you are showing something that's very important. It can be a very effective compositional tool if you're showing off something important in the scene, if you have something important in the background. But for the most part, you want to stay true to your composition. Having too much headroom or too little can make your video look too amateur. Ultimately, having a good composition is having a nice balance in your image. You want to make sure that everything in your frame is there on purpose and it forms a nice composition. We're also going to provide with you specific compositions that you can use and practice. For the most part, I think a strong center frame is good for you if you just want to create simple videos. You can go above and beyond. Understanding composition will allow you to break the rules a little bit later. A lot like getting into, the shutter speed and whatnot. But start off with the basics, especially if you don't know where to start. A nice center frame is good. So the next one is going to be your perspective. So the perspective is going to be very important when you're filming. For the most part, typically I will be filming and looking up at a subject, or when I'm filming myself, I will have the camera tilted up and looking towards me. What this will do will allow a little bit of authority when talking to the camera. If the camera is pointing down at a subject, that's going to make the subject seem more vulnerable, weaker. You want to have the camera at about the same height as your subject. So us sitting down, you could set up the camera or tripod like we are right now in a position where the camera is basically sitting down. So it's not too low, it's not high, it's actually just a little bit lower and it's with us. That's kind of the way I set up my shots, especially for online courses, for YouTube. It's a very powerful method and tool that you could utilize in your videos as well. There are different compositions and perspectives that we have here in the workbook for you. So if you want to take it to the next level, you could really focus on other compositions. In terms of just keeping it simple, I like to have the height at about the same as your subject. It wouldn't make sense to have the camera off in the corner, a foot off the ground. And it wouldn't make sense to have the camera overhead right now if that's not who I'm talking to. You really want to focus on the direction and the reason why the camera is positioned where it is. Everything should be intentional. So we will see you in the next video.